for people that are driven like you guys, that's it. You need the number. And that's the type of people I want to recruit to my organization, is people who have that need. I'm going to work until I, hit X number, right? Maybe I want to make $200,000 a year, and that's going to keep me happy. Well, maybe that might be enough to fulfill all your financial goals, but is it going to keep you happy? If your future, there's a great coach called Dan Sullivan. He said, your future has to be bigger than your past. And if your future isn't getting bigger, it's getting smaller, right? Grow or die. And for me, that's misery, right? If you're just, I'm very happy making this amount. Now, here's the bad news is, according to Dan Kennedy, but that's like 95% of people.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
That's all they want. They want that, and they're happy with that. My guess is those people aren't listening to this podcast because they're happy with what they have. They're watching, some reruns on TV, eating some Oreos, got the cheese dust from the Cheetos all over their fingers, and they don't care. They don't want more out of life. But for me, I've got kids, I've got team members. If I'm not growing and giving them more as a leader, I am absolutely failing my family and I'm failing my team.
And you're going behind too. I think that's a big epiphany that any of us have. It's, if you're not going forward, you're going backward, because the world is always moving forward. Everything around you is continually moving forward. If you're not utilizing that same energy to push yourself and to move forward, oftentimes, and I remember sitting at a lunch with you, John, and you said, okay, when you start off on this entrepreneurial journey, you get from A to B, but all you can see is what's forward, the true entrepreneur, because you've already accomplished what's in the background, and all you see is the future. And I think those are the people that actually make the biggest impact. It's ingrained into our culture. You're going to work a good job. You're going to go to college. You're going to work 40 years, 65, boom, here's your retirement, and you're done. Now you can start declining. I don't know what the stat is, but it's a frightening amount of people die, within the first 10 years after retirement, because they lose purpose, they lose that motivation, they lose that grind. Oftentimes we're asked, Chris, Colin, when are you guys going to slow down? The question is why. We may slow down on acquisitions, but that doesn't mean we're going to slow down on business. We're going to keep perfecting our business and working on our business. We're going to work on the media side. We're going to work on these different things because, as you said, we have employees, we have family members that we need to take care of, and we need to be that example. So I love that. What are some of the traits and what are the similarities between leaders in the military world and the civilian world? What are some of those leadership traits that you've noticed?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of great things we learn in the military, and as you know, Chris, a lot of bad habits and really some bad leadership lessons. I think one of the traits is definitely identifying your stars. In the military, we are doing officer evaluation reports. We're always evaluating for potential, not just for talent and past performance, but who are the potential stars. And I learned that in the military. And my last job after I went off active duty, I went to the National Guard, and I was the officer and warrant officer candidate school commander. And so we were responsible for commissioning these officers. And it was a great job because we really learned, okay, is this person officer material? And then if they are, then how do I develop them? I think in the business world where we fail a lot of times is, we have our C's who are let's face it, they're mediocre at best. Our B's who are good and have potential, and our A's who are the top, right? And we waste a lot of time trying to bring our C's up to the B status instead of making our A's even better than they are. So in the military, you learn that, right? That when you are deciding who is going to be responsible for the lives of America's sons and daughters, you want the champions. And here's the thing, not everybody wants to be a champion. Nobody wins a race they don't want to run. And I think that in the military, we learn how to evaluate people, how to evaluate their motivation. You become very discerning about character. And so that's an important lesson that is carried over to the civilian side. Obviously, there's a lot of stupid, big bureaucracy stuff that I hate in the military. That, CIF, Central Issue Facility, where they issue a bunch of equipment that you'll never use. And then when you go back, they're worried about, your canteen cup isn't clean. I'm like, didn't we just leave billions of dollars worth of equipment in Afghanistan? And you're worried about me turning in, a $2.50 canteen cup, right? So they're I think big can get really dumb and lose agility. And I think that's one of the things we learned about the military is that, some of the best units, right? You're talking about your Army Special Forces, your Rangers, your SEALs, your Delta Force. You have these smaller units that have agility that can get a lot more done. And I think the bigger you get as an organization, the more policies and procedures you have, the dumber you tend to get as an organization, and the agility you start to lose. And so I learned that from the military, and that's always scared me about growth, is at what point do we get so big that we become like the military? Now, that being said, we have the United States has the greatest military in the history of the world, and it's phenomenal, but there are lessons about how to do things better from large organizations. And I got to tell you, I do not like the way the military trained us. I remember Sergeant Major came to me when I was a lieutenant and said, I said, we've got some non-performers. They gotta go. And we were getting ready to deploy, and the Sergeant Major's like, oh no, you're taking them. And this was, like I said, this was kind of the senior non-commissioned officers having conversations with the young lieutenants, which rarely happens. And he said, well, Lieutenant, those soldiers had a high enough ASVAB score. They are physically fit. They're mentally sound. If you can't get them to the next level, it's because you, as a leader, have failed to train them and failed to mentor them and failed to develop them. Well, that was all bullshit, okay? Because they're, like I said, if someone doesn't want to be in the race, they're not going to win.
Right.
And if people don't want that, you can't. Cy Wakeman from Omaha, she said, you can only lead the willing. And I think in the military, we think that we got to lead everybody. And as a civilian, that's not true.